Taylor Swift. She's an American singer-songwriter known for her narrative songwriting, which often centers around her personal life and relationships. She started in country music and transitioned to pop and alternative, becoming one of the most influential and best-selling artists of all time. Taylor Swift's genre evolution is one of the most remarkable and defining aspects of her career, showcasing not just her versatility as an artist, but also her keen sense of timing and deep understanding of her audience. She began her journey in the music industry as a teenage country prodigy, entering the scene in 2006 with her self-titled debut album, Taylor Swift. At just 16, she captured the hearts of country music fans with songs like Tim McGraw, Teardrops on My Guitar, and Our Song. These tracks featured hallmark country instrumentation like banjos and acoustic guitars, and her lyrics reflected the experiences of adolescence, young love, heartbreak, and the trials of high school life. What set her apart, even then, was her ability to craft vivid, relatable narratives that resonated deeply with her audience. This authentic storytelling approach would remain a constant in her music, even as her sound began to shift. Her sophomore album, Fearless, 2008, built upon the country foundation of her debut, but leaned more heavily into pop sensibilities. Songs like Love Story and You Belong With Me maintained country elements such as fiddle and twang, yet the structure, hooks, and production bore a polished, radio-friendly pop appeal. The crossover success of Fearless was unprecedented. It won the Grammy for Album of the Year and propelled Taylor into the mainstream pop consciousness while still retaining her country base. Her third album, Speak Now, 2010, continued this balancing act. Though still categorized as country, tracks like Mine and Enchanted showed increased use of lush arrangements and orchestration, signaling a gradual shift. She wrote every song on the album herself, which showcased her growing creative independence, and the production began to incorporate more rock-pop dynamics with electric guitars and grand choruses, especially on tracks like The Story of Us and Haunted. It was with her fourth studio album, Red, 2012, that Taylor Swift fully embraced genre experimentation. This album is widely regarded as a transitional project that blurred the lines between country, pop, and even alternative rock. While songs like Begin Again and Red retained country flavor, massive hits such as We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, 22, and I Knew You Were Trouble embraced pop and electronic elements, with the latter incorporating dubstep influences. The sonic diversity of Red received mixed reactions at the time from genre purists, but was later recognized for its innovation and boldness. Taylor herself has acknowledged that Red marked the beginning of her desire to break free from the constraints of the country label. The album was a commercial powerhouse and proved that she could thrive outside of country music, though she was still being recognized at country awards shows and charting on both country and pop formats. The definitive break came in 2014 with the release of 1989, Taylor Swift's self-declared first official pop album. With this project, she completely abandoned country instrumentation and aesthetics, embracing a synth pop and electropop style inspired by 1980s music. Produced with Max Martin, Shellback, and Jack Antonoff, 1989 featured shimmering synths, layered vocals, and electronic beats. Songs like Blank Space, Style, Shake It Off, and Out of the Woods not only dominated pop charts, but also showcased her ability to reinvent herself while maintaining her lyrical depth and emotional resonance. 1989 was a critical and commercial triumph, earning her another Grammy for Album of the Year and cementing her place in pop music history. This genre shift was not just a musical pivot, it was a cultural one, as it marked Taylor's emergence as a global pop icon, transcending her roots in Nashville and becoming a figure of mass appeal across continents. Following the pop dominance of 1989, Swift further explored darker, more experimental sonic territory with Reputation, 2017. While still fundamentally a pop album, Reputation leaned heavily into electronic, trap, and hip-hop influences, particularly on tracks like Kun, Ready for It, and Endgame. The production was edgier, the lyrics more confrontational, reflecting her personal conflicts with the media and public persona at the time. Even with this shift, she included more introspective and softer moments like New Year's Day, which nodded to her earlier ballad style. Her next album, Lover, 2019, pulled back from the darkness and embraced a brighter, romantic, and colorful pop aesthetic, filled with upbeat anthems like Me and tender songs like Lover, showing once again her ability to pivot stylistically while keeping the emotional core of her music intact. Perhaps the most unexpected and critically acclaimed twist in her genre evolution came with Folklore and Evermore in 2020. These sister albums marked her foray into indie folk, alternative rock, and chamber pop. Written and recorded during the COVID-19 pandemic with collaborators like Aaron Dessner of The National and longtime partner Jack Antonoff, these albums were introspective, quiet, and literary in tone. Tracks like Cardigan, Exile, and Willow displayed a mature, restrained approach to storytelling, with minimalistic production, featuring piano, acoustic guitar, and subtle strings. It was a stark departure from the bombast of Reputation and the polish of 1989, showcasing yet another facet of her artistic identity. This reinvention was not driven by chart trends, but rather by artistic curiosity, further solidifying her reputation as a genre chameleon capable of thriving in any musical environment. Taylor Swift's songwriting style is the cornerstone of her identity as an artist, and the primary reason for her enduring popularity across multiple genres and generations. From the beginning of her career, Taylor's lyrics have been characterized by their confessional, narrative-driven approach, often delving into themes of love, heartbreak, personal growth, and self-reflection. Her ability to tell vivid, emotionally resonant stories through song lyrics is a rare talent that has set her apart from her peers and allowed her music to form deep personal connections with listeners. She often writes from a first-person perspective, which lends a sense of intimacy and authenticity, making her audience feel as though they are reading pages from her personal diary. This approach was especially impactful in her early country albums, where tracks like 15 and White Horse captured the innocence and disillusionment of teenage experiences with emotional clarity and poetic nuance. Taylor's use of detail and specificity is one of her most defining songwriting traits. Instead of relying on vague generalities, she paints her scenes with cinematic precision, evoking images, emotions, and memories that resonate because of their familiarity. In All Too Well, perhaps her most critically acclaimed song, she writes, "Autumn leaves falling down like pieces into place, and I can picture it after all these days," and "You kept me like a secret, but I kept you like an oath." These lines demonstrate her ability to use metaphor, imagery, and emotional weight in a way that feels both deeply personal and universally relatable. The 10-minute version of All Too Well, released in 2021 as part of Red, Taylor's version, further exemplifies this storytelling mastery, expanding on the narrative with lines like, "And you were tossing me the car keys, and spia and spur twiubao, the patriarchy keychain on the ground. We were always skipping town." Here, Taylor includes hyper-specific details that bring the memory to life in the listener's mind, giving a sense of time, place, and psychological nuance that transcends traditional pop songwriting. Another hallmark of Swift's songwriting is her use of recurring motifs and thematic continuity across albums. She often revisits certain ideas or images, Mirrors, red lips, dresses, seasons, and colors appear repeatedly in her lyrics. These motifs act like narrative threads that weave together her discography, creating a sense of cohesion and evolution in her storytelling. For instance, the color red appears in different emotional contexts, from symbolizing passion and heartbreak in red to re-emerging in symbolic gestures in later albums. This intertextual layering allows fans to interpret and reinterpret her lyrics as her career progresses. Her consistent exploration of heartbreak and healing across her work creates a long-term emotional arc that reflects her own maturation as a person and artist. Fans often engage in deep analysis of her lyrics, decoding allusions, double meanings, and hidden references to people, places, or moments from her life, which further enhances the sense of intimacy and investment in her work. Taylor Swift is also adept at capturing different emotional tones and character perspectives within her songs, showcasing her versatility as a storyteller. While many of her early works are clearly autobiographical, she has increasingly incorporated fictional storytelling into her songwriting. This shift is most evident in albums like Folklore and Evermore, where songs like Betty, August, and The Last Great American Dynasty are told from the perspectives of characters she created or adopted. In Betty, she writes from the point of view of a teenage boy seeking forgiveness after a mistake, while in The Last Great American Dynasty, she recounts the history of Rebecca Harkness, the former owner of her Rhode Island home, blending historical fact with whimsical narrative flair. These songs show her growth as a lyricist who can create fully realized fictional worlds, yet still infuse them with emotional truth and resonance. Another defining element of Taylor's songwriting is her use of structure and literary devices. She frequently plays with rhyme schemes, meter, and lyrical progression to maximize emotional impact. Her songs often follow a classic narrative arc, with a beginning, middle, and emotional climax, mimicking the structure of short stories or personal essays. In Enchanted, for example, the slow build of the verses gives way to an explosive chorus that captures the overwhelming feeling of infatuation. In Cruel Summer, the use of an escalating bridge, I love you, ain't that the worst thing you ever heard, serves as the emotional breaking point of the song, a Swift signature that brings catharsis and energy to the track's narrative. Her choruses are often memorable, not just for their melodies, but for how they encapsulate the theme of the entire song, making them both emotionally and musically resonant. Taylor also excels in shifting lyrical tone and perspective to suit different emotional experiences. She can be scathing and sarcastic, as seen in songs like Blank Space, where she plays with her public image and satirizes the crazy ex-girlfriend stereotype with lines like, "Got a long list of ex-lovers? They'll tell you I'm insane." At the same time, she can be vulnerable and tender, as in Lover, where she sings, "Can I go where you go? Can we always be this close forever and ever?" This range allows her to express a full spectrum of human emotion, making her music feel honest and multi-layered. Her lyrical voice is confident yet empathetic, and she frequently invites listeners to explore their own feelings and experiences through her stories. Taylor Swift's discography is marked by a series of major albums, each representing not only a milestone in her career, but also a distinct era of personal and artistic growth. Her debut album, Taylor Swift, 2006, introduced her as a teenage country singer-songwriter with a remarkable gift for storytelling. Featuring tracks like Tim McGraw, Teardrops on My Guitar, and Our Song, the album was steeped in the traditional sounds of country music, including acoustic guitars, fiddles, and simple chord progressions. Yet, even at this early stage, her lyrical maturity stood out. She wrote or co-wrote every song, and the themes, first crushes, heartbreak, longing, were delivered with a level of emotional insight that resonated far beyond her age. The album established her as a fresh new voice in country music, and her image as a blonde, curly-haired girl next door became iconic. Her second album, Fearless, 2008, propelled her into superstardom and solidified her reputation as a crossover artist who could dominate both country and pop charts. Songs like Love Story and You Belong With Me became global hits, blending the emotional storytelling of country with the catchy hooks and production of mainstream pop. Love Story, a modern retelling of Romeo and Juliet, used sweeping melodies and fairy tale imagery to universalize adolescent romance, while You Belong With Me captured the insecurity and yearning of unrequited love in a way that felt instantly relatable. Fearless won the Grammy for Album of the Year, making Swift the youngest winner of that award at the time, and marked her transformation from a country star into a multi-genre pop powerhouse. It also began her long-standing tradition of using her personal life and relationships as inspiration for her songs. Speak Now, 2010, her third studio album, was a deeply personal and ambitious project. Uniquely, Swift wrote every song on the album entirely by herself, a move that underscored her songwriting credentials and artistic independence. The album's themes ranged from romantic regret to public confrontations, as seen in tracks like Back to December, Dear John, and Mean. Back to December was notable for being one of the rare instances where she offered an apology rather than placing blame, while Dear John was a raw, emotionally charged ballad believed to reference her relationship with singer John Mayer, filled with complex metaphors and sharp lyrics. The album's sound retained country elements, but increasingly incorporated orchestral arrangements, rock influences, and more dramatic structures, reflecting her growing musical ambition and maturity. With Red 2012, Taylor Swift took her most daring leap yet, producing an album that defied strict genre categorization. Red was a mosaic of pop, country, rock, and even dubstep-influenced elements, signaling a clear evolution in her sound. The album included anthemic tracks like We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, emotional ballads like All Too Well, and synth-heavy tunes like I Knew You Were Trouble. All Too Well, in particular, became a fan favorite and is often hailed as one of her best songs, praised for its lyrical depth and narrative structure. Red captured the turbulence of love and heartbreak with unflinching honesty, and its sonic experimentation laid the groundwork for her full pivot into pop with her next release. 1989-2014 was Taylor Swift's official break from country music and her full embrace of pop. Named after her birth year, the album reflected a new era of sleek, polished synth-pop production and marked a dramatic shift in her public persona. With the help of producers like Max Martin and Jack Antonoff, Swift created a collection of radio-ready hits like Blank Space, Shake It Off, and Style. Blank Space in particular was a masterstroke of satire, poking fun at her media portrayal as a serial dater. 1989 was both a critical and commercial triumph, earning her a second Grammy for Album of the Year and positioning her as a definitive voice in pop music. The success of 1989 confirmed that she could reinvent herself and thrive in a completely different musical space without losing the core of what made her songs meaningful. Her next album, Reputation, 2017, was a direct response to intense media scrutiny and public backlash. It embraced a darker, edgier aesthetic both lyrically and sonically, incorporating elements of trap, hip-hop, and electropop. Tracks like Look What You Made Me Do and Ready for It presented a more aggressive, confrontational side of Swift, though the album also contained tender moments such as Delicate and New Year's Day. Reputation explored themes of identity, revenge, and the complexities of fame, offering a layered and often polarizing look at a pop star wrestling with public perception while trying to maintain personal relationships. Swift returned to a more romantic and colorful style with Lover, 2019, an album that celebrated love in its many forms. With tracks like Lover, Cruel Summer, and The Archer, she blended upbeat pop with introspective lyrics, creating a sense of openness and vulnerability. The album also marked her first release under her new label, Republic Records, giving her greater control over her music. Then, during the pandemic in 2020, Swift made another surprise turn with Folklore and Evermore, two sister albums that departed from radio pop in favor of indie folk, alternative, and soft rock influences. These albums featured storytelling from imagined perspectives and adopted a quieter, more introspective sound. Tracks like Cardigan, Exile, Champagne Problems, and Willow demonstrated her continued growth as a songwriter and her willingness to take creative risks. Produced largely in collaboration with Aaron Dessner and Jack Antonoff, these albums emphasized atmosphere, subtlety, and lyrical sophistication, and were widely praised by critics for their artistic depth and innovation. Taylor Swift's decision to re-record her early albums is one of the most significant and empowering chapters in modern music history. The origin of the re-recordings stems from a highly publicized dispute over the ownership of her master recordings. In 2019, music executive Scooter Braun acquired Big Machine Label Group, which owned the masters to Swift's first 6 studio albums: Taylor Swift, Fearless, Speak Now, Red, 1989, and Reputation. Swift, who had left Big Machine in 2018 and signed with Republic Records under a deal that granted her ownership of her future masters, expressed dismay that her past catalog had been sold without her consent. She publicly accused Braun of manipulative behavior and lamented losing control of the art she had created during her formative years. In response, she announced an unprecedented move. She would re-record and release new versions of those 6 albums so that she could own and control the music herself. The re-recording project, dubbed Taylor's Version, is not just about reclaiming legal rights. It's about reasserting artistic autonomy and rewriting the narrative of her own legacy. The first of these releases was Fearless, Taylor's Version, which came out in April 2021. This album not only included re-recorded versions of all the original tracks from Fearless, but also featured 6 previously unreleased songs from the vault that were written at the time but didn't make the original cut. Songs like You All Over Me and Mr. Perfectly Fine offered fans a fresh glimpse into her early songwriting and were seamlessly integrated with the reimagined classics like Love Story, Taylor's Version, and 15, Taylor's Version. These new versions closely match the originals in arrangement and tone, but with subtle improvements in vocal maturity and production clarity, showing how she had grown as a performer while honoring the sound that fans remembered. Following the success of Fearless, Taylor's Version, Swift released Red, Taylor's Version, in November 2021. This re-recording was particularly anticipated because of the cultural significance of the original Red album and its emotional depth. Among the most talked about features of this version was the inclusion of the long-rumored 10-minute version of All Too Well, which added layers of storytelling and heartbreak to an already beloved track. The new version was accompanied by a short film written and directed by Swift herself, starring Sadie Sink and Dylan O'Brien, which deepened the narrative and gave visual life to the song's emotional arc. Other vault tracks like Nothing New, featuring Phoebe Bridgers, and I Bet You Think About Me, featuring Chris Stapleton, expanded the album's sonic landscape and offered a fuller picture of the creative process behind Red. By reintroducing these older works with a more comprehensive vision, Swift not only reasserted ownership, but also gave fans new ways to experience the music they already loved. In July 2023, Swift released Speak Now, Taylor's Version, a particularly personal endeavor as she had written every song on the original album by herself. The re-recorded album preserved the original's deeply confessional tone and melodic complexity, while adding 6 vault tracks that included features from artists like Fall Out Boy and Hayley Williams, 2 bands that were significant influences on her during the Speak Now era. The re-release was not just a reclamation of rights, but a celebration of her early independence as a songwriter and the fearless ambition that defined her career at that point. Tracks like Enchanted, Taylor's version, and Dear John, Taylor's version, resonated anew, especially as fans re-examined the lyrics through the lens of Swift's current perspective and maturity. The release also sparked broader conversations about the treatment of young female artists in the music industry and the importance of creative ownership. Most recently, 1989, Taylor's version, was released in October 2023, bringing Swift's most commercially successful pop album back into her hands. With hits like Style, Taylor's version, Blank Space, Taylor's version, and Wildest Dreams, Taylor's version, the album marked her complete transition into pop superstardom. The re-recording retained the glossy, synth-heavy sound of the original, but benefited from more refined production techniques and her evolved vocal abilities. As with previous re-recordings, the album also included vault tracks, such as Is It Over Now and Now That We Don't Talk, which added depth to the original era and revealed more of her songwriting experimentation during that time. These tracks further cemented her reputation for lyrical vulnerability and complexity, even within pop's typically polished framework. The re-recordings are not simply duplications of past work. They are reclamations, reinterpretations, and reinventions. Swift has treated each release as an event, complete with elaborate marketing campaigns, new visuals, and a narrative that ties past and present together. She has invited fans into the process, treating them not only as listeners, but as co-archivists of her career. Through Easter eggs, vault song teases, and personal statements, she has built a meta-narrative around her discography that rewards long-term engagement and encourages listeners to reflect on her journey both musically and personally. The Eras Tour is perhaps the most ambitious and defining live performance venture of Taylor Swift's career, serving not only as a concert tour, but as a grand retrospective of her entire musical evolution. Launched in March 2023, the Eras Tour was conceptualized as a celebration of the distinct creative periods, or eras, that have defined Swift's discography, from her 2006 self-titled country debut to her indie folk albums Folklore and Evermore, and her pop masterpieces like 1989 and Lover, culminating in her re-recordings and newest works. Each era is treated as its own immersive universe, with distinct visual aesthetics, set designs, and fashion styles that reflect the thematic and sonic tone of the corresponding albums. This structure allowed Swift to craft a nearly 3.5-hour-long performance, featuring over 40 songs, that transports the audience through the various emotional landscapes and creative identities she has explored over the years. The setlist for the Eras Tour is curated with meticulous attention to balance and flow, interweaving fan favorites, deep cuts, and commercial hits in a way that feels both nostalgic and fresh. The concert opens with a triumphant return to the Lover era, an album that had not previously received a tour due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Songs like Miss Americana and The Heartbreak Prince and Cruel Summer set a euphoric tone with vibrant staging, sequined costumes, and high-energy choreography. From there, the show transitions seamlessly into the Fearless era, where Swift dons a fringed gold dress reminiscent of her 2009 performances, and plays classics such as You Belong With Me and Love Story. Each era is introduced with a change in visuals, tone, and fashion, creating the effect of stepping into a new chapter of her story, underscoring her remarkable ability to constantly reinvent herself while maintaining a consistent narrative voice. One of the tour's most impressive aspects is its theatrical production value. The stage is equipped with an enormous LED floor and massive digital screens that project shifting backdrops. Enchanted forests for folklore, a dreamy beachscape for 1989, Gothic castles for Reputation. The costume design is equally elaborate, with each look paying homage to previous music video styles, red carpet appearances, or iconic tour outfits from the original eras. For instance, during the Speak Now segment, Swift wears a flowing purple ball gown, reminiscent of the one she wore during the original Speak Now World Tour, while in the red set, she sports a t-shirt with playful text that mirrors the "Not a Lot Going On at the Moment" meme shirt from the 22 music video. The sheer scale and attention to detail in these transitions show not just a dedication to visual spectacle, but a deep reverence for her own history, as she invites fans to travel back in time with her. A particularly intimate and emotionally resonant portion of the show is the Folklore and Evermore set, where Swift trades high-energy pop choreography for stripped-down storytelling and lyrical depth. The staging here resembles a moss-covered cabin in a forest, creating a sense of quiet introspection and connection. She performs tracks like Cardigan, August, and Champagne Problems, the latter of which features a stunning solo piano performance that highlights her vocal control and emotional delivery. These moments contrast sharply with the bombastic swagger of the Reputation era, where songs like Ready for It and Look What You Made Me Do are delivered with strobe lights, smoke effects, and dramatic choreography, creating an almost theatrical dichotomy that showcases the versatility of her performance style and musical genres. Another fan-favorite element of the Eras Tour is the surprise acoustic set, where Swift performs 2 songs not included in the main set list, typically one on guitar and one on piano. These tracks change with each show, allowing each performance to feel unique and fostering an even deeper connection between Swift and her fans. This section has included everything from long-lost deep cuts like Should Have Said No to rare live renditions of songs like Mirror Ball or even unreleased vault tracks from her re-recordings. These surprise performances generate online buzz and fan theories after every show, as the Swiftie community attempts to predict what she'll play next, enhancing the tour's sense of mystery and exclusivity. Commercially, the Eras Tour has become a global phenomenon, selling out stadiums worldwide and breaking multiple records. Ticket demand was so high that pre-sale platforms crashed, prompting widespread media attention and even a congressional inquiry into Ticketmaster's practices. The tour's influence also extended beyond music, creating a cultural ripple effect across fashion, social media, and tourism. Fans have embraced dressing up for the concerts in outfits inspired by different eras, turning the audience itself into an extension of the show. Local economies in tour cities have reported boosts from the influx of Swifties, and themed events, pop-up stores, and fan meetups have accompanied the tour stops, turning each concert into a weekend-long celebration. The release of Taylor Swift. The Eras Tour concert film brought the experience to cinemas globally, further amplifying its reach and allowing fans who couldn't attend in person to experience the spectacle in immersive detail. The film, shot over 3 nights at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, became one of the highest-grossing concert films of all time, proving that the Eras Tour was not just a live music event, but a full-scale cultural phenomenon. Taylor Swift's rise from a teenage country singer to a globally recognized cultural icon is a rare phenomenon that transcends music. Her influence permeates entertainment, fashion, politics, fandom culture, and the broader social landscape, positioning her as one of the most impactful public figures of the 21st century. Her transformation into a cultural icon has been fueled not only by her musical achievements and creative reinventions, but also by her ability to tap into the collective consciousness of her generation, reflect evolving societal values, and navigate the complexities of fame with a unique blend of vulnerability and control. Swift's image is not static. It is a living narrative that shifts and evolves in tandem with cultural movements, public expectations, and her own personal growth, making her resonance with global audiences both deep and lasting. At the core of Swift's cultural impact is her role as a master storyteller. Her songwriting has long been praised for its emotional clarity and specificity, enabling fans to project their own experiences onto her lyrics. Whether it's the heartbreak of All Too Well, the optimism of Love Story, or the quiet introspection of Mirror Ball, Swift has created a shared emotional vocabulary for millions. Her ability to write about personal experiences while making them feel universal has made her songs more than just music. They become touchstones for memory, identity, and emotion. In doing so, she has blurred the line between artist and audience, creating a parasocial intimacy that makes her feel like a friend to her fans, despite her immense fame. This deep-rooted connection has helped solidify her place not just as a musical artist, but as a voice of a generation. Swift's influence extends far beyond the recording studio. She has shaped fashion trends with her distinct eras, from the cowboy boots and sundresses of her country debut to the sequined bodysuits and retro glam of her pop transformation. Each album era brings with it a signature aesthetic that fans eagerly adopt and emulate. Her red lipstick became iconic during the Red era, just as the cottagecore styling of the folklore period influenced mainstream fashion with its cardigans, soft textures, and muted tones. On social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram, fans post era-inspired outfits and makeup looks, creating a digital fashion subculture that revolves entirely around Swift's changing artistic identities. Her partnerships with luxury brands and appearances at major fashion events like the Met Gala have only further reinforced her status as a trendsetter and global style icon. In addition to her artistic and aesthetic contributions, Taylor Swift has become an increasingly prominent political and social figure, especially in the 2010s. For much of her early career, Swift maintained a carefully neutral public image, rarely commenting on political issues. This silence drew criticism, especially as her influence grew during a time of intense cultural polarization. However, in 2018, she broke her political silence with an Instagram post endorsing Democratic candidates in Tennessee and advocating for LGBTQ+ rights and gender equality. This post had a measurable impact, reportedly leading to a spike in voter registration. Since then, she has become more outspoken on issues such as reproductive rights, systemic racism, and the importance of voting, using her platform to encourage civic engagement and social awareness. Her Netflix documentary Miss Americana 2020 candidly addressed her decision to speak out and the personal struggles that accompanied it, framing her activism as a natural extension of her personal evolution rather than a calculated branding move. Swift's cultural legacy is also intertwined with her unique relationship to fandom and media. The Swiftie fan base is one of the most dedicated and organized in pop culture, often analyzing her lyrics, music videos, interviews, and social media posts for hidden meanings and clues, an activity that has become a defining part of Swift's mythology. Easter eggs, cryptic announcements, and coded messages are not just marketing tools, but a form of participatory storytelling that empowers fans to be active collaborators in her artistic world. This strategy has fostered a sense of community and loyalty that is unmatched in the industry. Moreover, Swift's battles with the press and public scrutiny, ranging from slut-shaming to feuds with other celebrities, have become major cultural flashpoints, that reflect broader conversations about sexism, media ethics, and celebrity culture. Rather than shy away from these controversies, she has often addressed them head-on in her work, turning personal struggles into anthems of empowerment and resilience, such as in tracks like The Man or Blank Space. One of the most powerful aspects of Swift's cultural icon status is her control over her own narrative. In an industry often dominated by external gatekeepers and shifting trends, she has maintained a level of autonomy that is both rare and inspiring. Her decision to re-record her first 6 albums after losing the rights to her original masters is a striking example of this. The re-recordings not only serve as a business strategy, but also as a feminist statement about artistic ownership and the value of creative labor. By reclaiming her past work and repackaging it with added depth and transparency, Swift turned a moment of exploitation into one of empowerment, reinforcing her role as a leader in the fight for artists' rights and gender equity in the music industry.